All right, so we back today in the home of Martin, creator and the mind and hands too behind Extnk. How you doing
Yes,
today?
sir. Yes, sir. I'm good. How's it been, bro? Glad we got to run this back again,
Yeah,
man.
for sure. That the last one was cool and people really liked it because I
Yeah.
usually work with like kind of disproportionately musicians,
hmm
so people really appreciate it like another like perspective.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's it been like? What's since the gap between then and now? What's been going on? What's kind of like new? Not like the whole thing, but just like in like your life, like what has changed
Yeah.
as far as
Fact.
like putting some time between like graduating and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So definitely since the last time graduated college, that was crazy. It was major. And then I was working at this fashion company for a minute. I was designing and I was kind of doing some creative director work for that. So that was like super cool getting kind of that experience under my belt so early because most creative director jobs you don't get into like 10 to 15 years in the
Right. Yeah, you
industry.
got to
So
really
like
put the
getting
leg
that,
work in.
yeah, so early was kind of like it was overwhelming at first, but it was okay. Well, if I could get this down now in 10 years when I could really do it for somewhere big, like it would be way more second nature. But outside of that, honestly, just kind of just revamping the stuff I had, some ideas I had, kind of exploring some new avenues of what I want to do in fashion, kind of finding my own lane. But outside of that, man, really just enjoying free time at this point.
Yeah.
Like, it's just right into the real world now. Like, it's no more school. It's like work
Right.
every day. Like,
And especially people like us who even when we were in school, we were working too.
Yeah.
So it was like an actual job, the schoolwork that was a job, and
Yeah.
then still trying to grind
Right.
the thing.
right.
So it's like now it's like you can be a little more like refined and like what you do, everything's not like rushed.
Yeah, because it's like so many priorities of like, okay, well, if I want to put, say, 20 hours this week working on clothes, but it's like, okay, I have 4 tests to do, but it's like I also have to go to work for 4 days a week. So it's kind of like,
Yeah.
everywhere. But now it's just like, okay, when I get off of work, all the time is my free time type of thing. So it's like time management is like a whole lot easier and smooth, but it's also like you kind of have to really decide what you want to put your time in type of thing because it's like you really can't waste time anymore
Right.
kind of thing.
Yeah. So you were telling me you took like a bit of a hiatus for creating things and putting them out like under your brand.
Yeah.
So what inspired you to, kind of take a step back and take some time for that?
Yeah, so definitely like working, like finally getting jobs like in the fashion industry that wasn't just like, retail was kind of like I was able to get the behind the scenes of kind of what goes into it for real, even if it was at a smaller scale, the company I was at.
Right.
But it kind of made me want to like, kind of take that same approach to what I was doing because at first, Extnk, I always say like started as kind of like an ongoing portfolio of kind of just like me learning new production methods, learning new skills, like growing my like just like kind of design brain. I just wanted people to see that kind of growth.
Right.
But then I got to a point until it was like toward the end I was really enjoying the stuff I was making and people were too. And I was like, okay, I kind of want that to like I want that to be the start of like something new of people having that same enjoyment, me having that same pride into what I was making. So I kind of just took a break to kind of just decide like if I wanted to like still do Extnk, if I wanted to start something new, or like just where I wanted myself to be in fashion. Did I want to keep doing like creative lead type of stuff, or if I wanted to be a designer? So it was just kind of that whole kind of brainstorm.
Yeah. And did you lean into any, I don't know, people you view as like kind of icons or whatever for like perspective on like people taking similar breaks in their stuff?
Honestly, I never really thought about it in that sense of like kind of other people taking a hiatus. It was kind of just like I feel like the people that I do look up to, like they all either like took breaks for a minute or they went into something completely new, and it like requires you to have a whole new brain looking at it. It's
Right.
like, even if I don't know what I'm doing, I'm taking the like my current like mind mixed with whatever requires it for this new job, and I'm kind of gonna mesh the two and kind of make something new out of it. So that was
Okay.
kind of like the thought behind it.
That's fine. And so do you now, with that hiatus being kind of behind you in a sense, like you're gearing up to start putting things out again, how does it feel in comparison to when you were putting stuff out for Extnk the first time around?
Yeah, honestly, like it's kind of surreal at times because, of course, like creating something, like you kind of see it like you're so close to it. So
Right.
like, like having people come up to you and kind of saying like, oh, like when's that dropping, or oh, I need something. It's like before that kind of sense of urgency like that wasn't there before, because one, not a lot of people knew about it, and two, I was dropping so frequently. It was kind of like, okay, well, I know something's coming up.
Right.
But then when it's like I take that break, and then at times if I did kind of make some like one-on-one stuff for myself or just trying some stuff out and people see it, they're like, oh, well, you're still making stuff, but where is it? You know, like we need it. So kind of hearing that, it's like, oh, so like people are really excited, and I think that'll show a lot more in like how it's like how they receive it when I do drop, because it's been so long. It's kind of like people are like really anticipating. I feel like up until now that hasn't been a thing before, so that's exciting to see.
That is exciting. And so other than like focusing on this, you know, I'm sure you've done other things with your free time. Have you picked up any new hobbies? I know you're really into basketball. Have you just kind of like leaned into the stuff you already kind of had an interest in?
Yeah, so honestly, outside of like right after graduation, it was like so hard to find like places to hoop, so like I kind of took a break from hooping. Really enough, well, not really, but I was like reading a whole lot. Like I was getting into a whole lot more books. I'm almost done reading this one book I got called The Black Design Experience. That's super eye-opening. I recommend you reading it. But I was just going through this stint of just like reading so many books, and that was kind of something I did. Also like wanted to learn how to like play the piano. That's something I wanted to like pick up right after graduation. Haven't started yet, but that's still something on my list.
Oh, I got one too. I want to learn as well. I bought a keyboard so I can try to.
Yeah, that's definitely like on my list to get off. But really, honestly, after graduation was kind of like, I kind of wanted to find or do like things I either haven't done in a long time or like new stuff, because it's kind of like, you know, like I said, for the last, in school for 12, 13 years, it's been school. So it's like, and the things that's like in school that I kind of have an identity with, but it's like, what do I want to do outside of that I haven't even thought about since I was like a kid or whatever. So,
right.
Yeah.
That's fine. So, in terms of basketball, just give me a brief thing. What's been your biggest off-season like thing that you're looking forward to going into the next one?
Yeah, I definitely am excited to see the level of like competitiveness in the league, because I don't know, bro. Pro-ams this summer have been so hostile.
Yeah.
Like, between the like Paulo and DeJounte Murray situations, and it's just like LeBron made his hiatus from the Drew League, and he's been playing at Jamal Crawford's crossover league like yesterday, and it's like a lot of people are, it almost like the pros are like hungry to play basketball now. It's like before, after the bubble, you know, everybody's kind of lackadaisical, and it's kind of like, if I play, I play. And then the year after that, they were kind of still getting their legs under them because the season started back so soon. But I feel like now everybody's like, okay, like I just want to go at whoever it is. So I'm excited to see. I feel like a lot of like teams that you don't expect to kind of make noise, or like just from that like excitement and like grit alone, will like kind of make some noise.
Yeah, and I think this year, I know basketball players when they're playing tend to say they always feel like they have a chance, but like they know if they can win the chip 100%, or not.
100%.
But like I feel like right now there's so many of them that feel like, no, for real, we could do it this year. That's like kind of driving that extra hunger this year. Because I don't think the Hawks could win the finals, but like I feel like Trae Young probably like, this the best team I done ever had. Like I got to Eastern Conference Finals. Like I think I could do it, and that's like one of the teams I don't even think is like at the top of the East. So I feel like there's so many teams that probably feel like we could really do it. So everybody's like trying to make a run for it for real.
I feel like now it's probably bigger on like, I think just as a league as a whole, they're like, even if we're not a team like on paper that is like, okay, we can win it, it's like, if we can stay healthy for 82 games, like we could probably beat out a lot of teams that are like guarantees if we just stay healthy and keep playing like team basketball. Like there's no like, imagine seeing Orlando Magic in like the Eastern Conference Finals this year. Like that'd be crazy wild to see, but just because they're healthy, like that would be wild. Yeah.
Give me a bold prediction for next year.
Let's see.
Something that you think could happen, but it's not like super likely, but that you could see.
We talking teams, players.
Whatever came to mind first. I thought of one for a player, so do a team.
Okay, team. I'm saying I like Denver in top two in the West.
Top two in the West.
If Jamal Murray can stay healthy, I like Denver top two in the West.
That's fair. Yeah. I could see that, and I think Jokic is not getting a single MVP vote just because I feel like people want to see him win now. I think he's past the point of like,
just like, oh, he's so skilled.
Yeah,
like,
we know how good he is, but like now it's time to go win.
Yeah.
I think this year Luka is going to lead the league in points, assists, win MVP, and go to the finals.
What?
Yeah. I think they're going to get back. I think I don't know. I just feel like this past year it was supposed to be his like LeBron's 22-year-old run.
Yeah.
But I feel like because he came in kind of out of shape, you know, he was adjusting to Jason Kidd.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. They got kind of close but couldn't get over it.
Yeah.
And I feel like they might be like deadline buyers too.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like this year is going to be the year he like really stamps that it's him and Giannis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Him and Giannis in the finals. I'm looking forward to it.
That's crazy. 'Cause honestly, like I think I think it was an interview I saw, and Giannis was saying, like, especially after he won, and he was like, if his son was old enough, like, and he wanted to like be with his dad, he was like, he'll retire from basketball like right now. He was like, I've proven everything I've had, and if you think about it, from where he came from coming into the league,
facts.
like MVP, Finals MVP, like no one thought that for Giannis. So for him, he's like, there's nothing more I have to do in basketball. Like I made my bread. Like
he's made his bread for sure.
I'll dip right now if I really wanted to. So I feel like it's a spot to where like Giannis knows that like he's good, but I feel like also with that, of course, when you get to that level when people didn't expect it, it's like that shock, and now it's the criticism because like, you know, of course people are always like Giannis doesn't have a bag.
Right.
Like his size kind of does 85 to 90% of like his performance, but when you look at, okay, like you put him against somebody that like has the weight, so you can't really kind of move him, so now you have to make Giannis play face up basketball. It's like, can he go left or right? Can, you know, kind of make a move to kind of get him moving? I feel like if he really wants to ascend, that'll probably be the next thing he has to like care about, if he really cares. But he might not even care about it. Right. He's like, bro, I'm done. Like,
yeah, that's true. Damn, that's true. Dope. All right, well, look, we moving into the, I guess, rollout, if you will, of your capsules. Do you want to talk about it, like, as a general concept first before we, like, talk about them as individuals?
Yeah. So, like I said, I was thinking for, like, a long time about kind of leaving Extnk kind of in college, and kind of when I graduated, I also graduated from Extnk as well. Like, that was something I kind of contemplated for a long time, but, just a situation had happened with the company I was working for, and kind of the company dissolved or whatever. And it was to a point to where I was like, wow, I put in so much work and time like for something else when I could have been doing all of this for me. And I feel like if I would have took that same like drive for, or like the tactics I was using for that for Extnk, like it would have done like numbers. So it was kind of like, one, I wanted to like test it one more time for like myself, and two, like I didn't want to be in a position to where like someone else could dictate like my creative flow or like what I'll be able to do. So for that reason, I was just like, okay, Extnk, I'm gonna do like kind of this one last reboot and kind of do it how I previously said, like right from the beginning, and kind of build that anticipation, have that level of like pride when I do drop stuff. So for that, it was kind of like in that hiatus, there's been so many like ideas or like small themes I've had. So instead of trying to cram everything into like a fall winter collection, I was like, it would be dope to have like a few, maybe like 2 to 6 pieces in a capsule, and kind of show like every theme that's kind of been in my mind, and then kind of let that breathe, and then take a break, and then kind of come back with a official like fall or winter collection.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. Okay. I can see that. Yeah, especially like you said, just returning, kind of building that anticipation back up. I think it will be good for people to kind of see what you've been working on, and then like the momentum you are already starting to get from like people like approaching you about stuff, that word of mouth will travel, and it'll really like give it a proper launch for whatever you decide to do next. Right. So what's the idea behind the first capsule?
So the first capsule was this collection of hats I had, these fitteds, and they were just like random, just like team. Well, at first it started as random teams, and then I kind of was like, wanted to have more direction to it. So it's a Dodgers fitted, a Los Angeles Angels fitted, a Oakland A's fitted, and a Houston Astros. So basically, the fitteds are just kind of I took the logo of the fitted and kind of made either a taboo or like a contradicting like thought or graphic like with a hat. So for one of them, this is the Houston Astros one, and from the end of the H it says "hate it here," and then it's like an angel like kind of on the brim. And it's kind of,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
the thought of like the taboo of like, oh, like what if an angel's in heaven? And it's kind of like I don't even want to be here, you know, like type of thing. And that's kind of what Extnk was built off of, that like taboo, or that kind of the things you don't want to think about or just never thought about.
Right.
And that's something that kind of came to life in that collection of fitties. That is going to be the first drop.
Okay, and that's fine. So what is it about a fitted that you feel like makes it a kind of timeless staple where it's like never going anywhere?
Yeah, so of course it's like the history of fitteds, like in general, like from old heads fitteds to like the new resurgence of fitteds with like the new colors. And like honestly, fitteds is kind of one of the biggest things in headwear. I know for the last maybe 3 or 4 years it was like trucker hats,
Right.
and like that hat came out of the end of like the whole craze of like dad hats and stuff. Truckers was it for a while, but like right now I think fitteds are kind of like the headwear piece, and like I said, it's maybe the most iconic one out of all. Like you can't go wrong with people just wanting to like rep their city, and a fitted like does that like effortlessly. So I think like it'll be interesting to see the amount of people that kind of break between, oh, like I like it because the city, like either I'm from the city or I really like the city, or like no, I like that hat as like I'm not even looking at it as like a city thing. It's just like a piece of work. Like I said, I can rock a Oakland A's when I've never been to California, but it's just like I like the piece as a whole. I like what like the hat that supposed to meant where it was from. I like how now the message has changed into a whole nother like kind of concept. So that'll be interesting to see.
Nice. And what made it the piece that you wanted to start with?
So I think that was kind of like the one. I think people have seen it for a minute between, because I made these hats a while ago and I was just wearing them for personal, just because I was just kind of trying something. I had just got a new machine in, and I had been kind of thinking about the idea for a minute. So that's how most of my stuff start. I start with like samples for me, kind of wear it, kind of get a like general reaction of how people feel about it, whether it's like compliments or just asking questions about where I got it from.
Right.
But I think for what's later to come in the capsules, I think the hats are the first thing that kind of like set the tone, like idea wise, or like messaging of what kind of Extnk is for people that don't know. And so I think that's the easiest for people to maybe like adapt to first, because toward the end of the Extnk run I had before the hiatus, it was like the hats were like the main things people were enjoying and like the most. So I feel like now starting back with that kind of has some level of like they're familiar with, and then I could get into everything else in the weeks to come.
Okay, that makes sense. And then so transitioning into capsule 2, what's that one gonna look like?
So capsule 2 is a collection of basketball shorts, and the idea behind that one is like extracurriculars. So it's like, of course, you know, in high school, if like your school even had like team shorts and stuff, you had like, you know, basketball, whatever, football, track and field. So the idea again, kind of bridging these two, is like I took like Greek or like kind of old myths and stuff and kind of crossed them with that idea. So for one, it's like the weightlifting club, and it's the graphic is like Atlas, which is a Greek god that was charged with like carrying the weight of the world. So it's like kind of bridging those two between
Right.
like, you know, something as simple as like, oh, weightlifting club, and then a deeper meaning if you know the history behind it of like, oh, like I'm carrying the weight of the world, and kind of bridging those. So it's kind of, you know, I want it to be, and just with everything I make in general, I want my pieces to be either you enjoy it just on the surface level of all like the color, like the graphic, or if you really know like the meaning behind the graphic or how the words in the graphic kind of go along, you kind of enjoy it on a deeper level, because it's like, oh wow, I didn't even think about these two ever being like paired together.
Right. And it'll give I think whenever you have something that like you said, is just cool, but like human ego, you just feel a little cooler knowing that you know what it means, whether people get it or not. Like you kind of just feel like this is like fire, but like you think it's fire because it is, but like it's extra fire because it is.
You don't even know the underlying behind it.
That's why I found myself doing that with like music and stuff. With, like people like send me unreleased and stuff. Now I just be feeling cooler like riding around to it, just because I know like
facts. Even with like music with like certain lyrics, I know like a lot of times, you know, like some lyrics outside of just like if it's talking about the typical things you would expect in hip hop, is like a lot of like pop culture references and stuff, or even like film and movies and stuff. So kind of like hearing a bar from a movie that you've watched,
Right.
and it's like, oh, like that bar is so much harder, but like someone else will hear it and it's like, oh, that's a hard bar, like it goes with the song.
Yeah.
But you're like, nah, because you haven't seen the movie, so you don't really know why that one's hard. So I feel like kind of having that like different type of like connoisseur in anything you create, from like a surface level to like I like kind of know what he's getting at, to that third level of like, oh no, I know exactly why he paired this with that. It's kind of just like it's interesting seeing like the level of appreciation between like those three different types, I think.
And it's an interesting balance to try to strike, because you don't necessarily want to go too deep where it's like people can't get it.
Yeah.
Like those are things that like there's a market of people who like are really into those, all of that, like individually.
Yeah.
So I think it's gonna do well.
Yeah.
And then so you're wrapping up with number 3. What's that one gonna look like?
So the third one is the like first capsule that like mixes like the medium in which I like use. So for the first one, it was just hats. The second one was just shorts. But the third one is some sweats, a couple tees, another trucker, and then one more special item. But yeah, that's the last one, kind of foregoing the fall winter collections, so kind of giving a sneak peek of like what that'll look like, kind of where the graphics are starting to lean toward, especially coming from the first two. And that last one is going to be the one that like I'm hoping holds people over into maybe like a month or 2 month break until the actual fall winter collection.
Okay. And what I guess theme is this one gonna have?
Yeah, so this one is I made this hoodie a couple months ago, and I like the like saying and the graphic I used, but I know it still needed some work. But basically, it was pain saved my life. I don't even know how I came up with it, but that was like the idea behind like that specific hoodie. And then I was like, okay, well, what if I branched that and kind of made it into different, like things within that same realm, whether it be like pain saved my life or pain shaped my life or whatever, kind of play on words. But that last capsule is kind of what it's all around, is either it's like pain or like recovery or salvation or whatever the case may be. But that's what that last one is kind of hitting on.
Okay, that's fine. And so for the fall winter collection, do you feel like it'll be a situation where you do something like, do you have interest, I guess, in like doing like runway stuff or like that kind of thing? Or even if it was like a digital version of that, like, do you have any larger scale plans than like things I've seen you do before? Like, has anything you've done working at the company you were working at led you into like a idea of like something big you might want to do, even if not for that, like maybe soon thereafter?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think one of the biggest things I took from the company I was kind of just like the presentation, like around it. Like I feel like regardless of what the product is, how much time you put into the quality of it, the thought behind it, it's about how people perceive it. And off that first look of how you present it, if the presentation between where you shoot it at, does that convey the theme in which like the actual pieces are? I think all of those things play a role. And I think before that was something that, not to say I didn't think about, but I didn't put that much emphasis on. I didn't think it was so important. But now working where I was, and I'm kind of seeing how like that kind of sells the piece more than the piece itself, is one of the things that like I'm taking, like I think about first when I'm making stuff now, when I'm shooting stuff now, how I'm presenting it. But from there is like a lot of ideas of stuff that like I didn't know was possible, or like I knew were possible but didn't think about like it being used for me. Because sometimes if you think about something so big and you're like, okay, well, I know where I currently am, maybe like that scale is a little too big for where I'm at. But
Right.
I think it's like if you can do something like that for whatever, if it's small or growing, like that kind of adds a different type of like appreciation. Or like if someone's looking at your brand or something for the first time, it kind of feels like, oh, like this may be an established brand because they're doing this already.
Right.
Like I think that was an example for when I dropped my that blazer I had did, and it was kind of like for that to maybe be my third or fourth drop, and I had like a sneaker. It kind of seemed like, oh wow, like he must been doing this for a while, but that was like the fourth thing I ever dropped.
Yeah.
But it kind of just made it feel a little bit more important because that was something that a lot of people don't get to until it's like later on in
Right.
the company's life or like their own career.
And that's how I kind of felt, because that was I might have known you before then, but that was the first piece I saw where I like really like started tapping into what you were doing, and it did feel like that. I did get the impression that you had put in like a lot more than
Yeah.
what that was, because it
Yeah.
was so thoughtful, because it was like such a good shoe, and to see like all the like positive like feedback for it
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I guess to conclude, what do you hope people take away from it as a whole? Like whether they get a piece, whether they just enjoy looking at it, you know, what do you hope they
Yeah.
like gain?
I think what kind of I've always kind of pushed and always wanted Extnk to be was kind of like, if you get a piece, if you don't get a piece, if you enjoy it, if you don't enjoy it, still I just hope people look at it as a point of, do something to where you can kind of outwardly express like creative thoughts or ideas, or even things that you may not want to talk about, like you can show in a way that's not like typical. Like for some of the pieces I make is like not therapy, but it's like it's almost like a release, because it's like, okay, this is maybe an idea or like a topic I want to talk about, but I don't know how to like verbally express it. But I'm like, I can make a shirt or kind of a hat that like expresses that same thing, to where you'll see it and you'll ask like, oh, why would you put an angel like saying they hate it somewhere? And it's kind
Right.
of like we can get into a deeper conversation, or that can just be like, for me, like that was just the release I needed to kind of get that thought out of my head.
Okay.
So whether if they like it or not, it's just kind of that appreciation of like, this isn't just basic, I put a graphic on a shirt and kind of hope you like it. I hope people see the like deeper kind of like joy and kind of thought that goes behind like all the pieces, like I said, all the presentation that goes into it.
That's fine. Well, definitely be on the lookout for that. There'll be like all kinds of dates and such, I'm
Yeah.
sure. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Get something. I'm sure you'll need gifts for people for the holidays. So
Definitely.
appreciate you doing this.
Always a pleasure, my guy.
Yes, sir.